All right, can we see our guest on the screen? I see him over there, so that's a good sign. Let's see if we can. It's coming. Dominic, can you hear us?
I can hear you well, Stephanie.
Perfect, perfect. So we're very pleased to have with us Dominic Allen, who's the UN FPA's representative for the State of Palestine. As we said, as Stefan said, he was just in Gaza. And now we can see you on the main screen. Dominic, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thanks, Stephanie. Yeah, I've returned today for a week in Gaza, and it's clear from my visit, the situation in Gaza is beyond any of our worst nightmares, and it's getting worse. What I saw, what I felt was fear, despair, desperation is everywhere. From the people that I met, the pregnant women, the heroic doctors and midwives that we support, to the humanitarians on the ground, many who've worked in many conflict zones across the world, all say nowhere is safe in Gaza right now. And after the fear comes the immense humanitarian needs. As you all have heard, the food, water, healthcare, shelter, all the basics for sustaining life are needed. And I don't even want to speak about a life with dignity, because I didn't see any of that in Gaza right now. What I saw was really, truly heartbreaking. And where I traveled amongst Rafah, Khan Yunis, where we've got a number of our life-saving activities happening, there are newly arriving IDPs forcibly being moved down into the south, into this highly densely populated areas, arriving every single day, and their needs are huge and they're growing every day. And that's what my first message is, really, that the world needs to help Gaza. It needs to help at scale, and it needs to help now. And for UNFPA and our particular mandate with the UN, I was terrified for the 1 million women and girls in Gaza, 690,000 women and girls at menstruating age, 5,500 pregnant women due to give birth in this coming month. That's 180 births every single day in Gaza right now. And during my visit, I met some of them, and I can't stop thinking about them. Many of them suffering from thirst, malnutrition, lack of health. If the bombs don't kill them, if disease, hunger, and dehydration don't catch up with them, simply giving life will. And we can't let this happen. And this is remembering the WHO reporting around 15 out of the 36 hospitals are only even partially functional right now. The rest not functional at all. And I visited a number of these hospitals together with the World Health Organization and with UNICEF. What I saw there, I visited in Khan Yunis, I visited the NASA medical complex, NASA hospital. And this is a hospital that the UNFPA has supported together with WHO and UNICEF over the years to support their maternal health services. And when I walked into the hospital, it was unrecognizable to me from the previous visits that I've been on. I was there just 6 months ago, and I didn't recognize it. I saw 8,000 IDPs among the hospital who were sheltering there in the hope that this will be a place of protection for them. I saw the trauma cases overwhelming the casualty, the E&E wards, and the fact that our maternal wards that we were supporting are being forced, the maternal cases being forced out because the trauma cases are overwhelming them. And a number of the maternal health cases, the support that we provide, are actually being transferred to another hospital close by because the Nasser hospital is overwhelmed. I visited the Emirati hospital down in Rafah. It's unbelievable sights. I mean, it's dealing with 70 to 80 births in this one hospital every single day. 20 cesarean sections every single day. I met with Dr. Hannah, who is one of the lead obstetricians there, and between her incredibly busy life, she gave us a couple of moments and showed us the 5 delivery rooms that are there, and explained that because of the capacity that's being forced upon the Emirati hospital, which we're supporting, but the capacity constraints are such that the 5 birthing suites, pregnant women are having to rotate in and out because there's more of them than there are of delivery rooms. Women who are in their final stages of labor having to step out of that room to enable another pregnant woman to step in. And speaking with Dr. Hannah at the Emirati, speaking with Dr. Ragda at the Al Khair hospital, which we're also supporting, I heard from them that our help is helping. that the reproductive health kits that UNFPA is providing, which comprise many different components from basic to comprehensive emergency obstetric care, they're helping save lives. And I heard that the supplies that we're providing into the Emirati hospital particularly are barely touching the ground because they're moving through at such pace. And as one of the correspondents mentioned, we're approaching 100 days. So we estimate 18,000 births since this began. And we know that from the supplies we've been able to deliver and get in, our supplies have covered more than half of those births, but much more is needed. Stefan referenced access. The Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs have spoken about this too, that missions to the north, one of which I was due to go on and have UNFPA supplies move north because we know there are pregnant women still in the north, but we don't have good numbers because we don't have access. It's being denied by the Israeli authorities. So we were unable to deliver supplies during my time there, but I'm pleased to say that WHO led a mission to the north yesterday with UNFPA supplies. But that's what the UN needs. It needs unhindered, safe, rapid, at-scale access to the north right now. Dignity. I think I visited one of the UNRWA shelters. I mean, UNRWA are doing phenomenal work in incredible circumstances. I visited the Khan Yunis Training Center, which is essentially a technical college. It's been transformed into a shelter housing 40,000 IDPs, including two of my own team members, two of the UNFPA staff members and their families, and spoke to the head of the shelter there. It takes 1 hour to queue to use the bathroom. And I want to speak about dignity because that means for the women and girls in Gaza, that's just one indicator of their needs for dignity. The huge needs for menstrual cycle support, for menstrual hygiene products, sanitary towels. From the mayor of Rafah to the Muqtars, they're all asking and calling for the dignity for their women. The women and girls are speaking with my team. They're calling out in the shelters and outside of the shelters. In the camps and in the organized and planned ones, we need to deliver much more. I'm pleased to say today, UNFPA got 66 pallets of menstrual hygiene management kits into Gaza. We're working side by side with many UN partners, including UNRWA, to really scale up and get more into Gaza because much more is needed. As I keep saying, at scale now. And this is also an environment which I saw where women and girls are suffering the most. I heard really harrowing stories of violence against women. The risks are obviously there and will increase. We've got, from UNFPA, working with UNRWA, we've got health workers on the ground. I met with women-led organizations, those national partners that have been on the ground and working on those. But again, this is where we need to get more aid. We need to get more assistance in and at scale, which will alleviate some of those pressures. And finally, from our side, I speak about from UNFPA's mandate, especially again, our work on youth. I was, during the visit, I met with two young people called Ahmed and Jomana. These are two of 18 members of a youth advisory panel for Palestine, which prior to the 7th of October, they'd worked on trying to lift up the voice of young people in Palestine to dialogue with policymakers in Palestine and with the international community. But they themselves are IDPs, and they've shifted to deliver assistance, these two young people are being able to support themselves and 5,000 families as well. But when I was talking to them and asking them what's their message to the world for the young people, because they've got youth circles, they're gathering up, they're working together as young people to try and support each other, but they're suffering. They're suffering. The mental health challenges that they themselves spoke of, that they're challenged and they're trying to do more themselves. They're running psychological first aid. They want to be able to do more on mental health and psychosocial support for the young people because they want to be able to hope for hope. These young people, Ahmed, Jomana, the doctors, the midwives in the hospitals that I met with, the IDPs, and UNFPA and the UN has been very clear. This must stop now, and ceasefire now is there and our message. And I'll maybe close there. Stephanie, thanks very much again for having me. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Dominic, for your presentation. Let me give the first questions to Edith Lederer from AP.
Thank you very much, Dominic, on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for giving us this briefing of the dire situation, especially for women and girls. Could you clarify and elaborate a little bit on what actually has gotten into the north in the past few days? And secondly, on pregnant women giving birth and their newborn babies, and as you said, there are thousands of them in the last 100 days. Are there any figures on their survival rates for both the mothers and the children because of the dire conditions? Thank you.
You can answer right away.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Edith. I think on your first question, supplies to the north, so I can speak for UNFPA. The one supply run that we've been able to get, which wasn't denied so far, which has happened since the 1st of January. We've had one supply run, which has been led by the World Health Organization. And I must say that the collaboration across the UN has been phenomenal to try and meet these dire needs. And to be specific about what we've delivered around 8 interagency reproductive health kits. So this comprises around 56 boxes, because each kit is about 7 boxes. And this will support 360 births with clinical delivery assistance. These are midwifery supplies, drugs, disposable equipment, and it really helps manage postpartum, after birth, maternal and neonatal complications. So those are the supplies that UNFPA has been able to get to the north. On your second question, it is a major concern. I mean, when I speak of the capacity constraints for the birthing facilities, what it means is that the story again that Dr. Hannah told us and the other from the other maternity wards I visited. After a woman's given birth, she's given a matter of hours to be discharged. There's very little postpartum care which is being delivered to her and her baby. For cesarean sections, you would usually expect a minimum of 3 days to be retained in the hospital. Right now, they're having to be discharged up to, if they're lucky, if they're able to be, 1 day. It's shocking in terms of that. In terms of then the impact on the newborns, what we've heard, and this is more anecdotal. We don't have data at the moment to come to your question, but we have heard anecdotally some of the feedback from. I take the example of Dr. Bulbul, who's a lead in one of the NICU units of one of the hospitals there. He said anecdotally he's seeing higher rates of malnutrition, of below average weights of babies, and this is what Dr. Ragda at the Al Khair Hospital also reported to us. So we are concerned hugely because these are indicators that there are challenges through the last trimester of birth and then in their first moments of life, which are always the most precious and are always the most concerning from life-saving perspective. So it is something that we'll be looking at work, and UNICEF are working tirelessly as we are with supplies to get in and get them to the places that they're needed most.
Let me go. We have lots of questions. Ibtisam Abdelhamid and then Stefano, and we'll keep going.
Hi, my name is Ibtisam Azim, Al Arab Al Jadid newspaper. I have just first a quick follow-up on the issue of supplies. Could you tell us which supplies you need in this case, and what gets rejected, and do you get an explanation why? And then I would like to, if you could please elaborate a little bit regarding the issue of psychosocial support, what you have, and I mean, the needs are huge, but what are you doing to try to meet at least part or some of these needs? Thank you.
Thank you, Ibtisam. I think on the first question, the UNFPA, I know there are other agencies who have had much more challenges with regard to rejections. we work obviously very closely as a One UN. I'm aware that for UNICEF, for example, they're having challenges with getting supplies for desalination in order for power generators and other such items. For UNFPA, nearly all of our supplies have not been rejected so far. We have had one challenge, because this comes to your other part of your question around what's the type of kits we're sending in. So the supplies we're sending in are very focused towards life-saving measures for safe births. So they can be delivery kits. They can be, as I described, which was what was sent north, more clinical, reusable equipment, drugs and disposable equipment for clinical deliveries. Sometimes it can be referral level kits, which are for more comprehensive obstetric care, where cesarean sections and others are needed. So far, the only type of kit which we've had rejected is what we call Kit 8, which is for management of miscarriages and complications. So that particular kit, we haven't had any explanation, but as far as I'm aware, we don't get explanations given. They're just rejected and kicked back, and we keep on trying to get those kind of life-saving supplies in. On mental health and psychosocial support, again, this is an issue that the UN's deeply concerned about. More broadly, even before these most recent times, there has been a major challenges for mental health and psychosocial support amidst this occupation. And I think for us, our focus is on that. We can't think of any longer term mental health psychosocial support. Our focus at the moment is really on PFA. It's on PFA, psychosocial first aid, in order to support. And this is where, as I mentioned, we're looking to. We've got youth groups on the ground which are doing some of these to alleviate some of those, give moments of alleviation amidst the ever-present stresses and strains and major challenges. I mean, I even speak to some of my own team members which are really struggling with the challenges of constant fear and the unknowns that are lying ahead for them. Some of their fears and actual realities are unimaginable. So it is something that we're deeply concerned about, and it is a component of the response. But we need to do much more.
Abdelhamid.
Thank you so much, Dominic. My name is Abdelhamid Sayam from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. I want to first commend you for visiting Gaza. I think you are the fourth UN official to step afoot in Gaza for the last 100 days. I have two questions. First, have you seen any sign of infectious diseases in Gaza, especially among children, if you have seen dehydration or malaria or any kind of diseases? And the second, can you tell us more about your safety, yourself moving from one place to other, how you managed to go through all these areas you visited? Were you protected? Did you inform the Israelis where you were moving? Did they respect your integrity passing from one place to the other and secured your safety? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Abdelhamid. I mean, the numbers of UN staff on the ground are actually quite large, because we have our own national staff, our locally recruited staff, and together with the agencies and UNRWA, it's in the thousands and upon thousands, over 10,000, I think, national staff who are all directly impacted by this crisis, but many, many whom are working heroically amidst being displaced, amidst their own fear, without the basics of life themselves, are still there to support in solidarity for their fellow Gazans. In terms of international staff, I was one of there are a lot of international staff on the ground. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but if I think about we have a daily briefing at our joint humanitarian center in the middle of Gaza. There are at least 20 to 30 international staff. Maybe even more, and perhaps we can come back and clarify the number. But there are staff on the ground, but security is a major concern. So to come on to your other question, we don't necessarily we need the enabling environment in order to operate and deliver humanitarian assistance at scale. And this is a highly insecure environment. As I mentioned, nowhere in Gaza is safe. We have sought deconfliction for UN facilities, hospitals. Protection should be for all of those facilities and all civilians, but this isn't happening. So it is a major concern and a major worry. We were operating by sending out deconfliction notices, which are acknowledged, but the fears were still there. I mean, from my own self, on one of these visits that we did to Khan Yunis, where we went to the Nasser Medical Hospital and then onto the Jordanian Field Hospital, where we were visiting, there was an airstrike 500 meters away. Which is something to behold if you're on the ground and outside of an armored vehicle, which wouldn't protect you in case of any direct hit anyway. On the missions north, this wasn't for UNFPA, but I can speak for, I know, having spoken to the colleagues who were on those trips as well, that UN vehicles did receive direct fire as well. So the environment in which we're operating in is incredibly challenging. Both for the Gazan staff who work for the UN, many of whom have lost their lives as well. UNRWA, I don't have the updated figures, but it was over 150 at the last point I saw at one WHO staff, and many of the other staff's dependents, their family members, extended family members, also killed and injured as well. On your question on impact on children from infectious diseases and dehydration, I think the World Health Organization would be better placed for that one, but it is something we work very closely with WHO. I know they've issued a number of alerts, and we are deeply concerned, given the lack of hygiene, given the lack of clean water, the malnutrition, which is highly prevalent. I think the statistic I saw is that 90% of Gazans may go without more than one meal a day. So the conditions are rife for communicable diseases to take hold, and it's something that the UN is deeply concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Stefano, then Maggie.
Thank you, Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York. Do you think that the testimony that you're giving us today should be used in The Hague during the trial where Israel is under trial for genocide, with the accused of genocide?
I'm here to speak from our humanitarian program. It's something that I know the UN, as Stefan said himself, the UN is watching, and for us, we have no comment on the proceedings. I think for me and myself and the team that I have on the ground in Gaza and the team who are operating here from East Jerusalem and in Ramallah, our big focus is just to deliver against those needs as soon as possible and to deliver at scale as possible. And that's my message for today is we need that support. The Gazan people need that support. We need to deliver at scale, and we need that support.
Okay. Just let me rephrase then the question. Maybe you can answer to this. If they ask you to come to deliver a testimony in The Hague, would you go, and would you say the same things?
My understanding of the ICJ is that it's independent from the Secretary General, and there's no impact or influence over them. And as I said, Stefano, I mean, for me, my big focus right now is on ensuring that we deliver at scale for the humanitarian support that's there, that the humanitarian support that's needed, and the assistance that we need to get at scale.
Let me go to Maggie.
Thanks, Dominic. It's Margaret Bashir with Voice of America. Dominic, can you just tell us, first of all, where you're briefing us from today? Are you in Amman? Where are you?
Hi, Maggie. I'm in Jerusalem right now.
Oh, in Jerusalem. Okay, great. Thank you. And so could you just talk a bit about what you saw? Are children, are newborns suffering any birth defects as a result of like their mother's malnutrition during pregnancy, or the anxiety and stress of the pregnant mother? Are mothers able to breastfeed once their newborns arrive, or are they struggling to make milk because they aren't eating well? And for instance, staff, they must be terribly fatigued by now, suffering post-traumatic stress disorders, things like that. So could you just talk to sort of the conditions you found people in? Thank you. And thank you for your time to brief us today.
Thanks, Maggie. I think I should say I'm briefing you from East Jerusalem, but it took me 2 days to get back to my office, which I've been to Gaza many times before. It's a 3-hour drive down the road, but I'm not able to access. And there is a crossing not far from here, which I should be able to drive across, but I wasn't able to because I was denied for the UN for its humanitarian workers to be able to cross that crossing. So anybody who wants to get in has to travel across the North Sinai, get to Cairo. And for my journey from Cairo to Jerusalem, isn't easy either. So we have to go Cairo, Amman, and then drive across from Amman to here. So there is the efficiencies that are needed in terms of our humanitarian response come in so many different layers. But a long journey is nowhere near what the major issues are right now. In terms of, because of what your question, where your question's coming from, I think, first of all, in terms of the needs, we know that the calorific and hydration needs for both pregnant and lactating women are higher. Lactating woman needs at least half a litre more than normal to ensure that there's enough hydration for her to effectively breastfeed. And then there's the other elements of privacy, dignity, and the psychosocial impact for that as well. And that is something our team, UNFPA, has heard, that mothers who were breastfeeding who are no longer able to because their milk sources have dried up for many reasons, including hydration, nutrition, and other issues. And of course, that then leads on to nutrition challenges for the newborns as well. This is, again, something that we could refer to our partners in UNICEF and the World Food Programme in terms of nutrition, but you've seen the risks that have been made and the statements that have been made in terms of the risks of famine approaching, given the huge needs of food. But when we've spoken, and we've been, I mean, this leads back to one of the other questions earlier around the support for women who have given birth. Given that they have to move quickly out of the hospital, we've been trying from UNFPA, we've been able to get some forms of postpartum kits, which not only are blankets to swaddle the baby in, some newborn clothes, because that's another part of the feedback which comes from these pregnant women, noting that figure of nearly 18,000 newborns or births that have taken place. Their needs are huge and need to be met. In terms of from our staff from UNFPA, I visited all of them whilst I was there. We sat together, and they're all heroes in my eyes, but they don't want to be called heroes. It's same as the midwives and doctors. I even said to Dr. Hannah, who I referred to, and to one of my staff members, Mustafa, when I call them heroes, they look at me as if I'm saying something foreign. They say, no, this is my duty. I'm here to either, whether it be Dr. Hannah to help deliver safe births, or Mustafa in his incredible work in getting UNFPA supplies to the places that it's needed. He said, that's what I'm here to. I'm here with my fellow Gazans to deliver for them. So their strength, they're still heroes to me, by the way, but although they don't want that label, but the impact on them and on our staff is huge, because they're all impacted by this crisis, whether it be them worrying about where the next meal is going to come from, whether it's worried about the insecurity of a bomb dropping and worried about being able to move safely, to be able to deliver those supplies, or to be able to just go and fetch water from the water dispensaries because they can't get clean water into their homes, or their ability to go and fetch a blanket because winter's approached and they need more warmth. So it is a big concern, and it is something that UNFPA will be looking at in terms of support to our staff, but as part of our broader humanitarian approach and humanitarian response. Thanks, Maggie.
On the main screen, but I can see you at the back. Let's see if our technician here can fix our main screen so we can see you again properly in the room. We will go to Al Jazeera, and if there's no other question, then you have Ephraim as well. So we'll do 2 more questions, and I think then we will wrap up. Let's see if we're able to get. Maybe you can start, Gabriel, asking your question, because I see him. He's connected. We just have to fix here. We're back.
Hello, Dominic. My name is Gabriel Elizondo from Al Jazeera English. Thank you very much for your briefing. You've clearly worked in Palestine a lot. You're close to the situation. You've been to Gaza a lot. But as someone who's seen it firsthand and one of the few UN officials that have actually been there from the outside, if you will, since October 7th, what surprised you the most seeing it with your own eyes? And number two, how long do you think the situation can go on in Gaza in its current state? And number three, can you compare what you saw in Gaza to anything else that you've ever seen before? And if so, what?
Gabriel, could you just repeat the second question? My line cut out during your second question.
How long do you think the situation in its current state can go on in Gaza?
Okay. Thanks, Gabriel. I think what surprised me the most was seeing the worst of humanity and the best of humanity at the same time. I mean, some of the images, we took this route every day coming from Rafah, from the Joint Humanitarian Center to along the Egyptian border and up the coastline a little bit. And what shocked me there was seeing every day more people arriving at huge numbers. And the image which is kind of seared into my brain a little bit is on one day seeing this family arrive with a carload of a full family, multi-generational. So from the kind of the grandparents to the children, and you can see them arriving, holding onto mattresses on the roof because they're trying to take the whole world together. And I don't think that this is what surprised me the most on this dark side, was then seeing the family unloading and then coming back the next day and seeing that the grandfather was sitting in a wheelchair in the sand with a carload of his life, and the look on his face. I mean, we work across all types of people in terms of youth and pregnant women, but to see the look on this gentleman's face, it really stuck with me. And I marry that with that's the darkness to the lightness of seeing the unbelievable work that's being done by Dr. Hannah, by Dr. Ragda, to the midwives that I met, one of the midwives in the Al-Khir hospital, who they're rolling up their sleeves and trying to do the best they can to help deliver safe births. Or, as I mentioned him already, Mustafa just shows me the strength and the light of humanity, of solidarity. On the how long, I don't know, Gabriel. I'm clear, and we're clear from UN that we need to deliver at scale now. I mean, what we're seeing in terms of the impact for nutrition, to see even my team members who have gaunt faces drawn and have lost weight, it's absolutely clear that the UN's been calling for aid at scale for weeks and weeks, months. And the impact of that is already occurring. The famine risks that have been issued are occurring. The risks of disease, as Abdul Hamid asked about as well, they're there. So I don't know. I don't know how much longer this may go on or how long it can continue. But it should have already stopped. And this is where the UN's been very clear that and calling for a ceasefire. In terms of comparing it to anything else, I spoke with. I mean, the UN's trying to get its best and the most experienced humanitarians onto this, and those that I've spoken with as well. Nobody's seen anything like this before. So I think incomparable, I'm afraid, is the only word I can use. Thanks, Gabriel.
Ephraim?
Thank you so much, Dominic. My name is Ephraim Kosaifi from Arab News Daily. I do appreciate you bringing back our attention to the suffering of the people of Gaza and what they're going through, and in that reflecting the selflessness of humanitarian workers. But since the beginning of this war, we have also seen a parallel, unprecedented attack on humanitarian organizations and humanitarian workers. There are even whole websites here dedicated to attacks on UNRWA, for example. And I wonder how these attacks, whether physical or verbal, on the part of politicians, are impacting your work on the ground. Is there any way you could give us concrete examples of how is this making your job even more difficult than it already is?
Shukran, Afram. I think whilst I was there in Gaza, I mean, the actual attacks are deeply concerning. I mean, when I was there, we were sitting in the Joint Humanitarian Center, and one of the international NGOs which are there on the ground suddenly rushed out of the room, and everyone kind of held their breath, because when people rush out of rooms in those situations, it's not good news. It's often the worst news. And indeed, one of their guest houses was attacked by a missile strike. And if I could recall correctly, no one was injured. But those are direct attacks, physically. As I mentioned, UN convoys going north have been hit by bullets. So the physical attacks are making the security situation deeply worrying, makes the delivery of aid very challenging. In terms of the online pieces, I can't speak to the operational impact. I'm probably not best versed to say that, other than to say it's obviously not helpful in any way in terms of the attacks that are being broached against the humanitarian community. We need support. We need unfettered access, and we need to deliver at scale. And that needs a whole bunch of hands being held together to do that. Thanks, Ephraim.
Let me just go back to Maggie for a very quick question, then we will wrap up.
Yeah, just on that, Dominic, could you tell us, does UNFPA need more money? And how much?
The UN's really looking at its flash appeal. We, from UNFPA, had done an initial estimate where we have this very focused approach to our reproductive health and sexual reproductive health needs and the hygiene and dignity needs. We had originally launched an appeal for 14 million, but we're actually revising the numbers now, and we'll be extending that number out. We're very grateful that we've had positive responses from a number of member states, and an individual giving campaign, which is where the general public themselves donate funds as well. And we're very grateful for all those partners that entrusted us. So we ourselves are looking for a significant amount of funds to be able to deliver going forward. I don't want to give you I don't have a financial figure other than to say we've got a funding gap of at least $10 million is our current estimates. And that's for our very focused and narrow mandate. The UN more broadly, in its humanitarian appeal and its flash appeal, it has a much greater figure, of course, and we hope for more support to be able to deliver for Gaza. Thanks, Maggie.
And that information for the UN, the whole UN is online. Thank you so much, Dominic, for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. So that was Dominic Allen, the representative for the State of Palestine from UNFPA, the UN Population Fund. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie.